Good afternoon. My name is Martin Bryant. I am managing editor at The Next Web, which is a technology news website, as Herb said. So I want to talk about something that's really interested me over probably the last couple of years, something that's been on my mind, something I've been thinking, coming from the north of England, having lived in Manchester for over a decade, loving this city and absolutely being happy living here, but travelling around Europe and seeing startup hubs in places like Berlin and Copenhagen, all over Europe, these hubs where there's real innovation happening. And it got me thinking, why isn't that happening in Manchester? Why aren't we seeing companies creating digital products from scratch on the web, putting them out there, building great successful companies, and why isn't that happening in Manchester? And if it is, why don't we know about it? First of all, what makes a successful technology startup? Well, to my mind, a few things. Technical innovation, creative thinking, a bit of luck, and bloody-minded gutsiness to go out there and make it a success. I think all of those are evident in Manchester. Turn my phone off. I was just thinking to myself that, yeah. Right, there we go. I'll sit down. Cool. Right. Okay. So I've lost my complete train of thought there. So so Manchester, has all that in spades, but it just seems like that last component isn't really there, isn't really happening. We've got the heritage. We've got the first stored program computer in the world was developed in Manchester. There's a fantastic computer science heritage here in Manchester. There's just a go out there and do it attitude that permeates everything in Manchester, from its art to its industrial heritage, everything. We've got other resources. We've got brilliant skills-based designers, of developers, of coders. A lot of them are doing agency work, and there's nothing wrong with agency work, but it would be great to see some entrepreneurialism there as well. Manchester's also a fun place to be. It's got a lower cost of living than London, but a much more compact city centre and tons to do there. So it's a really attractive place to be. And there are some successful companies who are based in Manchester or were started in Manchester. People like, for example, Myriad. They're a Swiss company, I think, but most of their skills-based, most of their managers are based down in Didsbury, and they contribute to a lot of mobile technology innovation. They contributed to the Android code base, for example. So they're doing some very interesting work down there, but they're quietly working away in Didsbury, and not many people know they're there. Capsule CRM, they're a CRM company based in Manchester who are doing very well. You've got companies like Late Rooms who started here. My favourite story is Transitive, a company that came out of the university. Ended up being acquired by an American company and being a big thing. But they created Rosetta, which was a huge thing for Apple in helping them move over to Intel chips, and that was a really big part of Apple's history in the mid part of the last decade. And that was made in Manchester, in offices on Deansgate. And not many people seem to know about that, and if people do know about it, it's not something we sing about as an achievement for the city. There are some startups as well. There are some companies out there actually doing really interesting things. There's just no cohesive scene. A few startups spring to mind. Capsule. I wrote about them last week. Now they are doing some very interesting things around messaging. They haven't really announced a product yet, but when they do, it'll be very interesting. But what they are doing is they were commissioned by the Royal Commonwealth Society to create an app for the Queen's Jubilee. So they're using some of their technology for something called the Jubilee Time Capsule. A great little achievement to kind of start them off on their road. Other ones that spring to mind, Candy. They're doing very interesting stuff around social media marketing. We've got App55. They've got a very interesting one-click payment solution. So you know how you can do one-click payments with Amazon and Apple. they're doing something very similar that other retailers can use. You know, there's a lot going on here, and there's a couple of other ones as well that I've been shown recently, and I can't really talk about, but I wish I could because they're really, really good. But you know, all these things are happening. But why isn't there a cohesive scene? Why isn't there somewhere, you know, you can say that is happening there? If you go to Berlin, for example, there's a cafe there called Oberholz, and all the startups hang around in there and have, and socialise. And Berlin's a great example because they really do help each other out. And you speak to the startups in Berlin, they all know each other. I speak to startups in Manchester, and a lot of them, they don't really know who else is working in a tech startup around the city. So there's no one they can really go to and say, oh, you know, have you got any tips on getting funding, or how did you solve this particular problem with your back-end technology, or, you know, where's the best place for office space? You know, all these kind of really important questions that can really help small businesses really get off the ground. And there just doesn't seem to be much going on in that way. So yeah, knowing where the startups are and who the startups are is a serious problem. A lack of knowledgeable investors as well to really get these companies off the ground. They either have to look further afield, or they have to struggle on bootstrapping their businesses. I mean, there is some VC investment in tech in Manchester and the Northwest, but when you come down to the seed stage investments, early stage investments from knowledgeable angel investors, there's nothing really like that happening. A central location people can point at and say that is where that is the home of Manchester's startup scene, if you like. I wrote about something over the weekend. It's happening in Northern Ireland. There's a place called Newry, which is on the border with the Republic of Ireland. And there's a woman there who is trying to turn Newry into a really important startup hub for Northern Ireland, because it's halfway between Dublin and Belfast. Great location. And so she's trying to, she set up an incubator there, and part of the reason she wanted a physical space in Newry for this was that someone could then say, that is where Newry's startup scene is, that's where you go. Also, there needs to be an appetite for this, and you know, everyone I talk to, you know, I've talked about this to probably a few people in this room before, and you know, well, why isn't this happening? And as well as that, is there a wider appetite? And that's what I'm trying to find out at the moment. You know, does Manchester want this? Does Manchester need this? I think it does. I think it makes perfect sense for Manchester to be a creative, because that's the thing, right? Digital, I mean, people think of technology and tech and startups as all being about boffins creating things. And yes, there is that, but it's a fusion of that with the creativity and the that spark of something unique, which really makes a great tech startup product. And Manchester has that. And I really want to see that kind of thing bloom in Manchester, and for Manchester to be known for that. So, but the thing is, it really needs backing from the top. It needs backing from people like the council, from the Quangos, from the people, you know, with some power to put some kind of real backing behind it. So, I mean, is that money? Possibly. Or is it just blessing and support? It could be as well. The Newry example, for example, they've gone for zero public money. They don't want public money. The woman there who's running that, she actually described publicly funded startups as basically living on welfare for the middle class, because they become addicted to reaching these public sector imposed milestones, and they don't build competitive businesses because they're constantly, you know, thinking, right, where's my next money coming from the, you know, I've got to put in my next bid kind of thing. So, she's trying to move away from that. So at the same time, you know, there are smart ways that public money can be involved. So I wouldn't discount that completely. So what now? Well, I don't have all the answers, but I want to get the conversation out there. I want to get the conversation started. I want to get people talking about this and thinking, you know, I want people to come up to me and say, no, Martin, you're completely wrong. Everyone who's involved in a startup should go to London. And maybe there's an argument there. I don't know. But personally, my civic pride, what originally attracted me to Manchester was the fact that it's such a brilliant place. And so, yeah, let's make it happen. And that's my diatribe for TEDx Manchester.